My name is Ella Morris. I'm a 45-year-old Black American woman, born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, a city where summer air sticks to your skin and front porches still carry the echoes of family laughter and late-night prayers. I grew up believing in hard work, honesty, and love that lasts. My parents raised me to stand on my own feet, to speak when something felt wrong, and to never let the world harden my heart, no matter how heavy life became. For more than 15 years, I built a career as a digital marketer. I wasn't famous, I wasn't rich, but I was good at what I did. I helped small businesses from struggling family shops to hopeful startups find their voice online. I designed websites late into the night, wrote ad copy while the world slept, answered emails from different time zones, different cultures, different dreams. Some of my clients were in New York, some in Europe, some in Asia, and yes, some in Africa. And I loved that part of my work. I loved the feeling that my voice, my ideas, my effort could travel across oceans, that even sitting alone in my apartment, I could still touch the lives of people I might never meet, because, truth be told, some days, those connections were the only thing keeping me going. Behind the professional emails and confident Zoom calls was a woman quietly carrying a lot of weight. I had survived a painful divorce, the kind that doesn't just break your marriage, but slowly chips away at your sense of worth, the kind where you lie awake at night wondering how love turned into silence. Not long after that, I lost my mother, the woman who knew my voice before I even spoke, the woman who could hear pain in my "I'm fine," the woman who taught me how to pray when words failed. When she passed, something inside me went quiet too. Life kept moving, of course it did. Bills still needed paying, clients still needed results, but emotionally, I felt like I was standing still while the world rushed past me. Loneliness isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like success. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it shows up as independence. And I wore all of that very well. At 45, I wasn't desperate for love. I wasn't searching for rescue. I wasn't chasing fairy tales. But I was tired of empty evenings, tired of having no one to share my wins with, tired of carrying strength like armor every single day. I wanted companionship. I wanted warmth. I wanted someone who saw me, not just my skills, not just my resilience, but me. And then, Bashir came along. At first, he was just another name in my inbox, another message among dozens. I had no idea, no warning, no instinctive alarm that this man would slowly, quietly, and deeply slip into the fragile spaces of my heart, the ones I didn't even realize were still open, and that was the beginning of everything. Bashir didn't arrive in my life with fireworks. There was no dramatic moment, no instant spark. He arrived quietly. Just another email, another inquiry, another name among many. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because I had reheated my coffee twice already, and still hadn't taken a sip. His message was polite, almost formal. "Hello, Ms. Ella. I hope this message finds you well. I was referred to you for digital marketing services. I operate a gold trading business, and I'm seeking help with branding and online presence." Gold trading. I paused when I read that part. It wasn't my usual niche, but I'd worked with industries I knew nothing about before. That was part of the job, learning people before learning products. I replied professionally, brief, neutral. "Thank you for reaching out. Can you tell me more about your business goals and target market?" He responded quickly. Too quickly, maybe, but at the time, I didn't question it. His English was smooth, not perfect but thoughtful, carefully chosen words, respectful tone. He thanked me for my time, asked about my experience, complimented my website not in a flashy way, but in a way that felt genuine. That's what stood out. Most people rush, most people want results yesterday, but Bashir seemed patient. We scheduled a call. I remember sitting at my desk, straightening my posture before clicking join meeting. Even though I was alone in my apartment. And then his face appeared on the screen. He was younger than me noticeably, darkskin.com, a soft smile that didn't feel forced. "Bashir, it's an honor to meet you, Miss Ella." Me, smiling politely. "You can just call me Ella." He smiled wider at that bot. We talked about business, at least, that's how it started. He told me about exporting gold, about markets, about challenges in his country. I asked questions, took notes, stayed professional, but something unexpected happened. He listened, really listened. When I spoke, he didn't interrupt, didn't rush me, didn't talk over me like so many men in my industry had done. At one point, he said, "Bashir, you speak with confidence. but also kindness. That is rare. I laughed it off. Me, that's just years of customer service. But inside, something warmed after the call ended. I sat quietly for a moment. No butterflies, no fantasies, just a strange sense of calm. Over the next few weeks, our communication continued. Emails turned into longer emails. Work messages turned into light conversation at the end. I hope your day went well. Did you get enough rest? Nothing inappropriate. Nothing forward. Just human. One evening, after a long day, I found myself smiling at my screen. That surprised me. I hadn't smiled like that in a while. Eventually, he asked if we could talk outside of work hours. Bashir, only if you are comfortable. I respect boundaries. That sentence should have been my warning sign. But instead, it disarmed me. Because men who say they respect boundaries usually don't need to say it at all. Still, I agreed. Our first personal call lasted over 2 hours. We talked about childhood, faith loss. I told him about my mother. My voice cracked when I mentioned her name. I tried to move on quickly, but he didn't let me. Bashir, take your time. I am listening. And I did. I told him how empty the house felt without her voice, how I still reached for my phone to call her sometimes. There was silence on the line. Not awkward silence, respectful silence. Then he said softly, Bashir, your mother raised a strong woman. I can hear it. That night, after we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at the ceiling. I told myself this was harmless, just conversation, just companionship. But the truth is, loneliness doesn't need much to grow roots. Day by day, Bashir became part of my routine. Morning messages, evening calls. He asked about my meals, my stress, my sleep. No one had done that in years. And slowly, very slowly, I began to let my guard down. Not because I was weak, but because I was human. And when you've spent years being strong alone, softness feels like a gift. By the time I realized my heart was involved, it was already too late, and I had no idea that this connection, this comfort, this man would soon change my life forever. I didn't fall in love with Bashir all at once. It happened quietly, in pieces, in moments so small I didn't notice them stacking on top of each other. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it shows up as comfort, sometimes as routine, sometimes as the simple relief of not feeling alone anymore. By then, Bashir and I were talking almost every day. If I didn't message first, he would, Bashir, good morning Ella, did you sleep well? Me, I did. How's your day starting? Bashir, better now that I hear your voice. I used to smile when he said things like that, tell myself he was just being polite, just expressive. But deep down, it felt good. It felt like being chosen. Our conversations stretched across time zones. While I was winding down for the night, he was starting his day. While I was drinking coffee, he was watching the sunset. We learned each other's rhythms. I learned that he liked his tea strong, that he prayed before big decisions, that he said my name slowly like it mattered, and he learned me. He learned when my voice sounded tired, when I laughed to cover sadness, when I said I'm fine but meant the opposite. One night, after a particularly long day, I snapped at him over something small. Immediately, I felt guilty. Me, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken like that. Bashir, no, you're human. You're allowed to have hard days. No man had ever said that to me. Most men wanted me strong, put together, unbothered. But Bashir, he made space for my cracks. We started sharing photos. Nothing inappropriate, just moments. Me at my desk, him walking through the city, a cup of coffee, a sunset. He sent me a picture of himself one evening, standing by a river, dark skin glowing in the fading light, a soft smile. I stared at it longer than I should have. That night, he asked a question that made my heart pause. Bashir, Ella, have you ever considered loving someone from a different world? I laughed, nervously. Me, I don't know. Life is complicated enough. Bashir, sometimes the heart doesn't care about distance. I told myself to be careful, reminded myself of my age, my experience. But the truth is, experience doesn't make you immune to longing. It just teaches you how to hide it better. Over time, our conversations grew deeper. He told me about his dreams, about wanting stability, about wanting a family built on respect. He spoke often about marriage, not in a rushed way, in a thoughtful way. Bashir, I don't believe in playing with people's emotions. If I love with intention. Those words stayed with me, because after my divorce, Intention mattered more than passion. And Bashir seemed intentional. One night I asked him directly, "Me, why me?" "Bashir, because you are kind without being weak, and strong without being cold." That sentence wrapped around my heart like a promise. That's when I knew. Not when he said he loved me, not when he talked about marriage, but when I realized I was telling him things I hadn't told anyone else, my fears about growing older alone, my doubts about being enough, my sadness about time passing. He listened, he reassured, he stayed. And in return, I gave him something precious. I trusted him by the time he finally said the words, "Bashir, Ella, I love you." I didn't hesitate. "Me, I love you too." It felt mature, grounded, real. Or at least, that's what I believed, because love across two worlds feels romantic. It feels brave. It feels like proof that humanity can rise above borders, but love across two worlds also carries risks. Risks I didn't fully understand yet, and when Bashir suggested I come to Sudan, I thought I was stepping into a future. I had no idea. I was walking straight toward the moment everything would change. When Bashir first mentioned Sudan, I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't want to see him, but because some decisions carry weight the moment they're spoken out loud. We were on a video call. His face filled my screen. Mine stared back, older, thoughtful, cautious. "Bashir, Ella, if we are serious, then we must meet properly. I want you to see my world." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "Me. That's not a small trip, Bashir. Bashir. I know. That's why it matters." He spoke about Sudan with pride, about family, about culture, about building a future rooted in honesty. And as he talked, I felt torn, because love had opened my heart, but experience had sharpened my instincts. That night, after we hung up, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The house was quiet, too quiet. I stared at my phone, replaying his words, asking myself questions I had learned to ask after pain. Why me? Why now? Why so fast? I Googled. I researched Sudan, read about customs, read about safety. I read warnings. I read success stories. The internet gave me both fear and hope. Friends noticed the shift in me. One afternoon, over coffee, my closest friend asked gently, "Friend, you seem distracted. What's going on?" "Me, I've been talking to someone. He lives abroad." "Friend, abroad? Where?" "Me, Sudan." Her face changed, not judgment, just concern. "Friend, do you really know him?" "Me, I know his heart." "Friend, just be careful." That word followed me everywhere. Careful. I tried to be. I asked Bashir hard questions. About money, about work, about expectations. He answered calmly, confidently. "Bashir, I trade gold, but business is slow right now." "Me, will you be able to support a household?" "Bashir, together, yes. Marriage is partnership." That answer sounded mature, balanced. Still, doubt lingered. I prayed, not long prayers, just quiet ones. God, if this isn't right, closed the door. The door didn't close. Instead, Bashir grew more attentive, more affectionate, more serious. One night, his voice softened. "Bashir, Ella, I don't want a long-distance love. I want a wife." The word wife landed heavy. I wasn't 25 anymore. I wasn't chasing excitement. I wanted stability, purpose, a future built with intention. After weeks of reflection, fear, excitement, and longing, I made my decision. I booked the flight. I remember pressing the confirmation button. The screen blinked. Trip confirmed. My heart raced. I told myself this was bravery, that love requires risk, that growth lives outside comfort. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered caution. I ignored it. I packed carefully. Conservative clothes, medications, documents. I left instructions with friends, shared my itinerary. I told myself I was prepared. The night before my flight, I stood in my bedroom, suitcase open. I touched my mother's old necklace, the one I always wore when I needed strength. "Watch over me," I whispered. As the plane lifted off the next morning, I looked out the window. America faded beneath the clouds. I felt nervous, excited, hopeful. I believed I was flying toward love. I didn't know yet that I was flying straight into the most painful lesson of my life. The moment the airplane door opened, heat wrapped around me like a thick blanket. It wasn't just warm, it was heavy, carrying dust, sun, and unfamiliarity all at once. I stepped onto Sudanese soil with my heart pounding faster than my footsteps. Everything felt louder. the voices, the movement, the colors. And then I saw him. Bashir stood near the exit, tall and still, scanning faces like he was afraid I might disappear. When our eyes met, his face broke into a smile so wide it erased every doubt I had carried with me across the ocean. Bashir, Ella, he said my name like it was something precious. He pulled me into a gentle embrace, not rushed, not aggressive, just warm. Bashir, welcome. I am so happy you are here. For a moment, all the fear melted. This was him, the man I had laughed with, prayed with, dreamed with. The drive from the airport felt surreal. The city moved fast around Uskarts weaving, horns blaring, people calling out. He pointed out landmarks, spoke with pride about his country, its history, its resilience. Bashir, life here is not easy, but the people are strong. I nodded, absorbing everything. The apartment he took me to was modest but clean. He had prepared, food simple, thoughtful. He watched me closely as I ate, smiling when I complimented the taste. Bashir, I wanted everything to be right for you. Those first days were beautiful. I walked through markets, hand in hand. He introduced me as his future wife. He stayed close, protective. People smiled at us, some curious, some approving. At night, we talked for hours. About plans, about blending our lives, about building something together. I remember lying in bed one evening, listening to the sounds of the city outside, thinking, maybe, this really is my second chance. But reality has a way of slipping in quietly. It started small. Bashir checked his phone constantly. He stepped outside to take calls. When I asked who it was, he brushed it off. Bashir, just business. He stopped asking about my day, stopped laughing as easily. One afternoon, I suggested we visit his workplace. I'd love to see where you trade gold. Bashir, hesitating another time. It's complicated. Something tightened in my chest. Still, I told myself I was overthinking. I wanted this to work. Then came the silence. Hours where he barely spoke. Evenings where he didn't come home until late. One night, I sat alone, staring at my phone, waiting for him. Fear crept in, not loud, but steady. When he finally returned, his energy felt different. Distant, irritated me. Are you okay, Bashir? I'm tired. That was all he said. I lay awake that night, listening to my own breathing, reminding myself, you're in a different country. Adjusting takes time. But deep down, my instincts were waking up. The dream was still alive, but cracks were forming, and soon, those cracks would break everything open. Silence can be louder than shouting. That's something I learned in Sudan. By the second week, the quiet between Bashir and me had weight to it. It followed us through rooms, sat beside us at meals, slept between us at night. The man who once asked about my dreams now barely asked how I slept. I tried to stay calm, tried not to accuse, tried not to panic, but my body knew something my heart was still refusing to accept. One evening, Bashir left without explanation. No kiss, no I'll be back. Just the sound of the door closing behind him. Hours passed. The sky outside shifted from gold to deep blue. The city noise softened, and still, nothing. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, debating whether to call. Don't seem needy, I told myself. Don't push. But fear doesn't wait for permission. When he still hadn't returned by midnight, I whispered his name into the quiet room. Bashir. No answer. Sometime after 1 a.m, exhaustion pulled me into a shallow sleep. I woke to a vibration. His phone. It was lying on the small table beside the bed, glowing in the dark like a warning. I told myself not to look. I told myself it wasn't my place. But instinct is louder than manners. When danger is near, the message preview lit up the screen. She's here. When will she bring the money? My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the screen, hoping I had misread it. Another message followed. Don't waste time. Americans have cash. My hands began to shake. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't stress. This wasn't culture shock. This was a plan. I scrolled, message after message. Conversations I was never meant to see. Talk of pressure, talk of timing, talk of what to do if I refused. The room felt smaller with every word. My ears rang. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. When Bashir finally came back, I was sitting on the bed, phone in my hands. He froze when he saw my face. Bashir, why are you holding my phone? My voice came out steady, but it didn't feel steady inside. Me, who are they? He didn't answer. Me, who are they? Bashir, he sighed, not in guilt but in annoyance. Bashir, you shouldn't have read that. That was the moment, not when I saw the messages, not when fear gripped my chest, but when he didn't apologize. Me, you told me you traded gold. Bashir shrugs, things are difficult here. Me, you told me you loved me. Bashir coldly, love doesn't pay bills. Those words sliced through me. I felt something break clean and final. I stood up slowly, trying to keep my balance. Me, you lied to me. Bashir, I brought you here, didn't I? That sentence chilled me. I realized then that I wasn't just betrayed, I was trapped. He stepped closer. Bashir, you're American. You have resources. Me, I'm a person, not a wallet. Bashir, you'll help us, or this becomes very uncomfortable for you. My pulse roared in my ears. I thought of my passport, my phone, the unfamiliar streets outside. I thought of my mother. I forced my voice to stay calm. Me, I need time. Bashir, you have little. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay still, breathing shallow, listening to every sound. Fear changes how you think. Every shadow looks like danger. Every noise feels like a threat. I realized something terrifying. The man I loved never existed. He was a story, a mask, a carefully built lie. And now, I had to find a way out, without letting him know how scared I truly was, because fear, once visible, becomes a weapon in the wrong hands, and by morning, I would have to choose between panic and survival. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, it settles into your bones, it changes how you breathe, it makes every decision feel heavy. Morning came quietly, too quietly. Bashir moved around the apartment, like nothing had happened. He poured tea, checked his phone, avoided my eyes. That scared me more than anger would have, because anger is loud. Anger is predictable. Calm can hide intentions. Bashir, we will talk later. Not if, when. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. Inside my thoughts were racing. Don't panic. Don't challenge him. Think. He started controlling small things. He suggested I stay inside for safety. He asked where my passport was, casually like curiosity. Bashir, you don't need it right now. You are with me. I felt my chest tighten. That document was my lifeline. I checked my bag the moment he left the room. Still there, I exhaled slowly. He mentioned money often, but never directly asked. Bashir, life is expensive here. Bashir, my friends expect things. Bashir, you understand responsibility, don't you? Each sentence was a test. Each pause waited for my response. I learned to answer carefully. Me, I need time to think. Bashir, time is not something we have much of. That night, I overheard him on the phone. His voice was sharp now, commanding. Bashir, she is here. Yes, she is scared, but she will cooperate. My stomach dropped. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't a fiancé. I was leverage. That realization didn't make me cry. It made me quiet. Because crying wastes energy when survival is at stake. I started observing his schedule, his patterns, the moments when he was distracted. I noticed that in the mornings, he left early, always for the same amount of time. That was my window. But leaving wasn't simple. I didn't know the streets, didn't know who to trust, didn't even know if my phone would work outside. And fear whispered a dangerous thought. What if he's watching you? One afternoon, I asked gently, me, can I go for a walk, just to clear my head? Bashir, eyes narrowing, why? Me, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Bashir, you don't need to go anywhere. That was the moment, not dramatic, not violent, but clear. When someone tells you that you don't need freedom, it means they believe they own it. That night, I didn't pack a bag. I packed resolve. I slept lightly, dressed, passport hidden under my clothes. I repeated one sentence in my mind over and over. You will leave. You will survive by morning. My fear had transformed into focus. And once fear turns into focus, you become dangerous to the people trying to control you. I waited, listened, and when the door finally closed behind him, I knew this was my only chance, because staying meant losing everything, and running. No matter how terrifying was the only way back to myself. The door clicked shut behind Bashir. That sound soft, ordinary, felt louder than anything I had ever heard. I stood still for a moment, heart pounding, listening for footsteps. None came. This was it. I moved quickly but quietly, hands shaking as I grabbed my phone and passport. I didn't pack clothes. I didn't pack memories. I packed my life. Every step toward the door felt like walking through water. Fear tried to slow me down. What if he comes back? What if someone stops you? What if you're wrong? I opened the door. The hallway was empty. I walked faster, out of the building, into the street. The sun was already high, the city awake. I blended into the movement, keeping my head down, following instinct more than direction. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, so I saw a small cafe, nothing special, just chairs, shade, and people. I stepped inside, breath shaky, legs weak. That's when I met her. Her name was Amina. She was wiping a table when she noticed me. She didn't stare, didn't question. She simply looked at my face and said softly, "Amina, sister, are you okay?" That word sister broke something open inside me. I shook my head. Me, no. She pulled out a chair. "Amina, sit. Take your time." I sat. My hands were trembling so badly, I had to place them in my lap to keep them still. She brought me water without asking. "Amina, you are safe here." Safe. I hadn't felt that word in days. Slowly, haltingly, I told her everything about Bashir, the lies, the messages, the fear. She listened without interruption. When I finished, she exhaled deeply, not in shock, but recognition. "Amina, you are not the first woman, but you will not be the next victim." She made a decision before I could even ask for help. She called someone, spoke quietly in Arabic, nodded, then she turned back to me. "Amina, you cannot go back. I will take you to my cousin's home." Trusting a stranger goes against every survival instinct, but fear had already taught me something important. Not all strangers are dangerous. Some are sent to save you. I followed her, thought her cousin's home was simple and warm. She gave me clean clothes, a place to sleep, a phone charger. That night, I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears of relief. The next morning, Amina helped me contact the U.S. Embassy. She went with me, stayed beside me, spoke for me when my voice shook. The embassy staff listened. They took it seriously, and for the first time since arriving in Sudan, I felt protected. When Bashir tried to contact me, I didn't respond. I had learned that silence could be power too. Within days, arrangements were made. Amina held my hand as we rode to the airport. "Me, I don't know how to thank you. Amina, you don't. You live. That is enough." At the gate, she hugged me tightly. "Amina, go home, sister. Be strong." As the plane lifted off, tears streamed down my face. Not from fear, but from gratitude, from survival, from knowing that in the darkest moment of my life, a woman I had never met chose compassion over indifference. And that choice saved me. When I landed, it didn't feel like home. The airport was familiar. The language was familiar. The faces looked like me, but I wasn't the same woman who had left. As I walked through customs, passport in hand, I felt exposed, like everyone could see what I had written on my skin. Fear doesn't go away because the danger goes away. It follows you at night. I would lie awake, gasping for air, my heart racing, replaying moments I wished I could forget. The sound of doors closing made my body tense. The buzzing of my phone sent a shiver of panic through my chest. I told people I was fine. It was easier to tell the truth than to tell them. Friends tried to comfort me. "Friend, at least you're safe." Now safe, the word felt complicated because protection doesn't erase shame. I blamed myself for trust, for the journey, because believing in love can be so easy. I questioned my intelligence, my judgment, my worth. How could someone as educated, experienced as me be? But the trauma didn't ask for permission. And manipulation didn't seem dangerous at first. I started therapy, not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed to understand. The therapist said something that stayed with me. "Therapist, you didn't fail. You were targeted." That sentence made something tight in my chest. Healing wasn't quick. Some days, I felt strong. Other days, I felt fragile. I learned to sit with my feelings instead of running from them. I let myself grieve, not just the relationship, but the version of myself I lost. And slowly, very slowly, I began to forgive myself. I stopped asking, why did I trust him? And started asking, why do I deserve to be protected and loved? That question changed everything. Pain demands something of you. It either breaks you or it shapes you. For months, I remained silent. I withdrew from work, from social media, from people. But the silence began to feel heavy. I realized I wasn't just healing. I had caught a story that needed to be told, not for drama, not for pity, for awareness, for a woman sitting alone at night, talking to someone online, the same hope I once felt. So I started writing. At first, just for myself, pages filled with fear, anger, truth, and then clarity. I realized that my pain had a voice, and that voice could help others avoid the same trap, or at least feel less alone. And that's how Voices of Old Pain was born. Not as a brand, but as a mission. A place where wounds are acknowledged, not hidden. Where being alive is respected. Where pain doesn't have the last word. Was no longer ashamed. I was proud. Proud that I survived. Proud that I listened to my instincts when it mattered. Proud that I came home. What this story taught me: love should never cost you your safety. Charm is not character. Words are not. Truth, consistency is not. All kindness is real, but true kindness always protects. And not all people who hurt you are monsters. Some are broken. Some are greedy. Some are lost. But that doesn't make their actions acceptable. Learn that power doesn't make it great. Sometimes power feels like walking away. Sometimes it feels like asking for help. Sometimes it feels like telling when your voice shakes. To the woman listening right now, you're watching this and something feels familiar. Please hear. May are not stupid. You're not weak. You're not alone. Ask questions, models of trust, not promises. Protect your documents. Tell someone where you are going. And most importantly, if fear tells you to leave, listen. Fear is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is your guardian. From the heart, if my story touched you, if it helped you, if it reminded you that survival is possible, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Voices of Old Pain. This channel exists because healing deserves a voice. Your story matters too. This is Ella. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that pain does not define us. Until the next story, be gentle with yourself. Be brave enough to hope again. And remember, no matter how old the pain, happiness can still return. I'll see you soon, here at the Sounds of Old Pain.